Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal, where, as you can see, I'm joined by James Benge of CBS. So it is Inside Arsenal Extra Time. James, how you doing, mate? You all good?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, we've both got holidays to get to, haven't we? So let's get on. Let's get this done.
Indeed, we do. Flying out first thing in the morning to Portugal. I was going to say to sunny Portugal, but kind of weird leaving the UK when it's pretty much, I think it's hotter here. It might be over there at the moment, but still looking forward to it. Indeed. So, indeed, we'll kick straight onto it. And did you watch it last night? You stayed up? Yeah.
Yeah, against my will. Like you were saying, Charles, it is brutally hot in this country, designed to keep us with our homes designed to keep us warm in the night. So I watched the first half, and then finally was like, I can get to sleep. Which kind of felt like Arsenal, from what I've sort of seen of the second half, it felt like Arsenal reached the same conclusion as well. So yeah, I thought there was sort of lots of interesting little bits and pieces to pick up from that first half, even if it's nice to win, and the result was a little disappointing, I guess, for the Arsenal fans in Philly.
Yeah, I guess so. One win, one draw, one defeat. Nice sort of symmetrical pattern there for the Arsenal on the US tour. I mean, yeah, yesterday it was weird. I mean, I thought Liverpool were the better team in the first half. I thought Arsenal were the better team in the second half, without ever really looking like they were going to get the equaliser. They went close a couple of times. Vieira had a shot saved, and Kivior put one header over that he probably should have done better with. I think Arteta clearly had a word at halftime, because I think what they were bad at in the first half, they were much better at in the second half. They really did improve them. I thought they were poor largely in the first half. I know Arteta said they came out pretty well and could have been 2 up early on. I'm not sure I saw that, I have to say. And I thought Liverpool were a better team. I thought they pressed really well. Liverpool, Arsenal were all right. They had some good moments, but Liverpool pressed really well. Arsenal struggled a little bit to deal with them. And they got punished defensively for a couple of poor pieces of play. I mean, what was your overall take from what you saw? What did you like? What didn't you like from last night?
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool, I agree with you, looked very good. They looked like a team with a point to prove and a new manager to impress. I sort of felt Arsenal were a little bit going through the motions, but I was sort of particularly intrigued. And the one thing I did really like, I thought, was Kai Havertz in central midfield. I know we sort of probably, I've probably been guilty this preseason of thinking that might be dead, but there were flashes there of a reminder that you could have this sort of player at left 8 who offers you quite a bit without the ball. I thought there was one really nice tackle, wasn't there? I can't remember which half that was in. Must have been the first half if I can remember it. And of course he got his goal, and I think that's always the vision of him at left 8, is that he would be that sort of penalty box poacher, filling the gaps that maybe Jesus leaves. So that was encouraging. I thought the defense was a little ramshackle, but I am not worried at all about that. I mean, how much of that defense will be on the field against Wolves on the opening day? Vieira, ups and downs there as well. It looks like, we were talking about this last week, weren't we, whether he is going to be a depth option wide. And if he is, it's okay, but it would make you want to sort of use Saka heavily throughout the season, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's certainly beginning to shape up like he is that a right-sided option, that Mikel is seeing him that. I didn't think he did too badly when he came on, Vieira. He's so left-footed though. I know Mackay is as well, but Mackay's really worked on getting on the outside as well and using his right foot if he has to. I don't really see that with Vieira. I think he's very one-dimensional. I think if you're defending against Vieira, he's playing out wide, I think you've got quite an easy job. I don't think you're going to be tested too much in that regard. So, yeah, I thought Havertz played well. I mean, people have reacted. Obviously, Arsenal played Havertz left 8 and Arsenal lost a game, and people are reacting because of that. And I actually thought he played pretty well in that position. But look, I don't think long term, I don't think that is going to be the plan this season. I mean, we're going to talk about Mikel Merino a little bit later on in the show, who, if he does come in, I think certainly seems like he might well be that sort of favoured option in that potential left-sided 8 role, or maybe even slightly deeper alongside Declan Rice. We'll have to wait and see how it pans out. But it's not a disaster if Kai Havertz plays in that position. I much prefer him playing as a central striker. I think he is better in that position. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But he is not poor in that left 8 role at all. It's like, even you go back to the Villa game, Arsenal didn't lose that game because Kai Havertz played in that left 8 role. Arsenal played really, really well for 45 minutes of that game. They just didn't score, and then the game slipped away from them. So I think it's very easy just to pinpoint it on Havertz played at left 8, and that's why he lost. So I thought he did pretty well as well. There was some good moments, no doubt about it. But I think Liverpool probably, on the basis certainly the first half, before all of the changes came in the second half, I thought they deserved a win. And sort of familiar failings really from Arsenal when you look at how some of the goals were conceded. I mean, it's interesting.
Good goals
Today. I mean, they were very good goals. I mean, Liverpool played them really, really well, didn't he? Harvey Elliott had a really good game, sort of creator in chief, playing as that number 10 role. 2 fantastic assists for him. And, Zinchenko, we've seen Salah do him in the past, and he certainly got the better of him again. I mean, there was still a wide open space. Yes, he got in sort of down the back of Zinchenko, but I don't think it was just purely Zinchenko's fault. Like you said, the defence was a bit ramshackle, wasn't it? People were all over the place. The line wasn't good, and Liverpool took advantage of that for both goals. So, we'll talk about Zinchenko a little bit later on rather than focus on it now. So let's just quickly talk about maybe what's to come now. Obviously, the players are flying home. We've got Leverkusen coming up, and then it's Lyon, and then bang, you're into the new season. Calafiori is obviously signed. Mikel Merino is a player Arsenal are very, very interesting. There's really strong reports at the moment mainly from overseas that it is, pretty much done. Again, I haven't had that confirmed. In the conversation I've had, it's like, we like him. It's maybe not quite at that stage just yet, but it feels pretty inevitable at this stage. It looks like he probably will sign. How do you view that from what you've seen so far this summer? From what you with the Calafiori arrival, if Merino does come in, if that deal does get done, how do you sort of view it as a potential signing for Arsenal and what it could mean going forward?
I certainly think he will start the season as a depth piece. I know you said it could be the left 8. I probably would say there. My theory is that Arsenal will go into the season, and I know. So when I watched the second half this morning of the friendly, I'd sort of seen a lot of criticism of Partey, and so it's hard to sort of avoid the sense of confirmation bias there. But there are worries there, and we'll come on to that a bit more maybe. But I think Arsenal will start the season maybe with Partey or Jorginho as the 6, Rice as the left 8, and it will be a position for Merino to win. But
yeah,
I guess almost, when you sort of watch clips, read about him, he almost figures to offer a lot of what Arsenal kind of viewed Kai Havertz as bringing to that role. He's tall, he's strong, he's dynamic, can get up and down the pitch. Incredible record for aerial duels and winning headers in the box. So I don't know if the technical level will immediately be there. I mean, of course, if you're a Spanish international midfielder, it can't be far off. But I don't know if he'll sort of immediately dive into the 11 because he'll immediately have that sense of how Arteta wants to play. I mean, we should say Arsenal love Real Sociedad. It's a rich well to be swimming in with Martin Ødegaard. Of course, they've been liking the likes of Isaac Subamendi and Banacher as well. So I see him for now sort of being that rotational option, taking some minutes off Rice, minutes where Rice plays at the 6 as well. But I think if you're doing that, it's such a high quality investment. 28 years old, like I sort of said, he played with guys like Ødegaard, knows the Premier League a bit, knows a long time ago, but knows it a bit, knows the country. I don't think it will take long for him to hit the ground running, and then it becomes this brilliant position that you want as Mikel Arteta, as an Arsenal fan. Competition, so much competition for that left 8 spot, for the 6 spot. And yeah, I think it's great because long term it doesn't really stop you from replacing Partey and Jorginho in next year. So I think it's a really shrewd signing.
Yeah, I think that's really key. I think when you look at it, obviously he's 28, so you're probably going to have him for 2-3 years at the sort of top level, not spending huge amounts, which sounds ridiculous because £25 million is a ridiculous amount of money, but you know what I mean. It's not one that's going to stop you heavily investing in that position again in maybe a year's time. You see, it's a squad improver. I think he will. I definitely agree. If this deal does go through and they do sign him, I don't think he walks into the starting 11 for the game against Wolves. It is a position he has to win. But I think, in my mind, I imagine he will win that position. I think he will probably. The vision is that he is going to potentially play there, and it looks like Declan might well play as number 6 this season. On the whole, there will obviously be rotation in the games. I mean, I got this from Squawker in terms of the three of Rice, Merino, and Odegaard, and you kind of look at how those attributes sort of dovetail with each other, and you can kind of see it looks like it could work. In all the areas that they cover it really, really well between them, and what their strengths are and what others' weaknesses are covered by the other strengths. So it looks like a trio that could potentially work well for the long haul. It's interesting when you look at the reaction to the Merino signing. Like, I think me and you have talked about it, and like we were expecting maybe a real sort of ceiling raiser type signing, maybe, so it feels a little bit of a disappointment. But then when you look at the reaction to people who I very much respect in Spain, who watch him all the time, they're like, this is a brilliant signing for Arsenal. It's really, I was seeing Sid Lodi earlier, who, I respect his opinion massively when it comes to Spanish football, saying this feels really, really cheap for me what Arsenal would get a Merino for. And so I'm quite excited when I see the reaction of people who have watched him far more than me in terms of what he could potentially bring. And I mean, you touched on it when you said you were talking about Partey and how his performances have been kind of met with over in the States. I was really excited going into this tour because I just thought Thomas looked really sort of lean and fit and ready, and he'd had the whole summer. But from what I've seen, and it is early days, but from what I've seen in these games so far, the worries I had about his performances right at the end of last season when he came into the team late on, they haven't gone away, which I was hoping they really would go away, But I also know in my head that, of all players, Thomas seems to take a little bit longer than everyone else to really hit the ground running. So I'm not ready to really be worried about it just yet, but I would like to see him just get a yard back that we've seen him have, 2 years ago before the big injury layoff. Get back to that sort of being able to eat up the ground a little bit better than he seems like he's doing at the moment. And it's a slight concern from the US tour is the sort of what I saw from Thomas. It just wasn't quite what I was hoping for.
Yeah, I think we need to sort of price him in for this season as he's going to be a player of high variance. He's not going to be your Nacho Monreal, your whoever else you want to sort of put in that category. Ben White. He won't deliver consistent 7, 8 out of 10s, but I think in the right game against the right opposition. I mean, remember the North London derby when you were sort of facing that Tottenham team and there were mistakes in there, but a team that sort of presses him but isn't quite organised enough in their press. That's a game for Thomas Partey. If you need a really solid base, you can roll out Jorginho and Declan Rice. I think that optionality, and Arteta keeps going on about this, doesn't he? And it's a challenge to him. I keep saying, until I see it, I'm skeptical that Arteta will, be using 18 players and varying his approach when there's games week in, week out. But there's so many that, for the right games, Partey will have value, I think. But like you, I mean, I was going to say it until you did. It's very true that he is a player that needs time to get up and running. And the challenge for him will be making sure that he takes that time to deliver well for Arsenal. And he's got pressure here as well, because at the age he's at, on the money he's on, even going into this season as a free agent, he will need to convince the suitors for next summer, as it looks like there's none coming this summer. He'll need to convince them that they should be willing to pay him what I'm sure would be significant salary demands for a free agent in his 30s with injury record. So he's got to deliver as well. And Arsenal will hope that pressure on him to perform kind of leads to good fitness, good consistent displays, and then who knows what will happen.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself the other day, it's like even if Merino signs between now and the start of the season, I was trying to pick my starting 11 for the Wolves game if everyone's fit and who plays where. And I think it's really interesting what I couldn't really come up with a guarantee what the starting 11. I wasn't sure if Havertz would play as a 9 or if Jesus would play as a 9. So I wasn't sure if Havertz might play as an 8 just because Arsenal haven't got the player they've got in, that they've maybe want through the door. They haven't got him in yet. And if they have, they're sort of bedding him in a little bit and don't want him to start. So maybe Havertz could play potentially as an 8 in that game with Rice as a 6, or you could have Jorginho and you can have Rice as an 8. But how much football's Rice going to play? It's quite up in the air right now if you're going to give your starting 11 who it could be. And, Thomas has played a lot during this pre-season. And so I do wonder at the moment if it's his position to lose for that first game against Wolves.
if it is, his grip on it is not as tight as he might make it.
There were some good things though.
There were.
It's the thing with Thomas at the moment, from what I'm seeing from him, it is just that the recovery, his recovery skills, which have been so strong. It's what he's known for, isn't it? He's just so brilliant at that. He just looks a little bit slow compared to what we're used to seeing from Thomas. And when that happens for a player whose best attributes is that, and then getting on the ball, suddenly splitting the lines with a brilliant pass and getting Arsenal moving again, having one possession back. If you can't win the possession back, then that's a worry. And that's what, hopefully, look, we've still got 2 more games. And I think that'll be really key. If he can play against Leverkusen, play against Lyon and play well and just get some more minutes into those legs and get himself a bit sharper. Again, I'm fully confident we'll see the best of Thomas Partey at the start of the season. I would like at this stage of the summer just to be feeling a little bit more confident about how he's gone in the US tour. I know I'm going to loads of people in the comments are going to go, why are you slagging off Thomas Partey? And I'm not slagging off Thomas Partey. It's just that position is so key to this team. It is absolutely crucial. And so it is just one of the concerns I have from the tour that we've just seen.
I'm fully confident that Jorginho will be fine anyway.
Yes, that is true. That is true. I mean, we haven't even talked yet about this man and his flowing locks over there. Ricardo Calafiori in through the door finally after obviously a bit of a summer saga. Has arrived. Didn't play in the game last night, of course. Was watching alongside Jurgen Timber, who was given the night off as well, just to sort of rest and recuperate after getting a few minutes into his legs. I mean, I'm really excited by the Calafiori sign, and obviously we saw Zinchenko playing in the left back role yesterday. It's very, very clear, I think, that Zinchenko, Arteta's sort of patience with Zinchenko, I think, is running out. I cannot imagine there's a way that if everyone, Tomiyasu's fit, Calafiori's fit, Timber's fit and available, that Zinchenko gets anywhere near the left back role at the moment this season. I think those days are gone now. And Calafiori just looks, if he can get fit quickly, I'm really excited about what he's going to bring to this Arsenal team.
I spent a lot of time in the last week watching video and clips of him, making sure I'm ready to go for the announcement. And I kept thinking about Ben White. It's so hard to kind of go out and find yourself a player that can do what Ben White can do. I don't even know if Arteta knew that when he signed him. Was it 4 years ago? 3 years ago. I don't think that even Mikel Arteta, who's such a big fan of his talent, would have thought, I'm getting someone that can do every role that a modern right back needs to do. And it's hard to be sure when he's playing sort of left of a back three for Bologna, but you see someone that can get to the byline and put in a cross like White can. You see someone that can play that possession game in central midfield, and you've got no doubt that this is also a guy that can defend really well. So I know we all get excited about new signings naturally anyway. I think this is the most... well, it's annoying when they buy players like Declan Rice, but it's a real... I was trying to put a timescale on it, but it just feels to me like a real can't miss. They've done an absolute cracker of a deal here for Calafiori. I think it's brilliant. I'm very excited to see how he gets on.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed he didn't play yesterday. I thought they might chuck him on for 15 or 20 minutes just to give the fans in Philly a bit of a treat at the end of the tour. But I don't know. Obviously,
work the jet lag off. It's always the best way to deal with jet lag, isn't it? Is to get your muscles flowing.
Well, he doesn't look very tired. If that's what he looks like tired, then I don't want to see what he looks like when he's fully refreshed after a good night's sleep. Let's put it that way. But yeah, it's an exciting start to the summer window, bringing him in, and I'm sure a couple others are going to follow. Did you see Josh Kroenke's interview with James over on ESPN that he gave there? It was, he sort of pledged. It was like, we're going to carry on doing this. So there is clearly going to be more business done. I don't think Merino will be the last either. So there's still clearly work for Arsenal to do. I think the summer tour has certainly shown that as well, that there is still work to be done to improve.
Interesting stuff about the stadium, by the way.
That was interesting. I've always been saying the word sort of capacity. He didn't say it was renovation was the word he used, wasn't it? It wasn't like capacity increase or anything like that. So, and it was very, very careful to the way he was phrasing it, obviously, but interesting nonetheless.
Well, we don't have a lot of time to dive deep, do we? But there's fascinating sort of conversations to be had about just the way that Arsenal built that stadium, and that it didn't necessarily think, and it's a very long time ago now, didn't necessarily think about how to turn a 60,000 into a 75,000. I mean, that would be incredibly difficult, we have to say, when people see
it's going to be the
goals.
mother of all battles with Islington Council and the local residents. If they're going to do that, I mean, obviously money does talk at the end of the day, and the Cronkies have got plenty of it, and I'm sure they've been met with a huge amount of resistance. Well, they've definitely been met with a huge amount of resistance for some of the decisions they've taken when it comes to their franchises. Don't want to call Arsenal a franchise. Sorry, that sent a shiver down my spine there. But you know what I mean. They've made some big decisions that haven't pleased everyone when it comes to their sports teams. And I'm sure they'd be up for that fight, but it would be a big battle, I think. And I think that the interesting thing about this stadium of Arsenal is you almost feel like it was, and it's a great stadium, the Emirates, no doubt about it. And when it was built, obviously, it was this amazing feat of architecture and engineering, and it was brilliant. It was the Premier League's best, but things have just moved forward so quickly in less than 20 years. And when you're looking at, obviously, SoFi over at that the Cronkies built in LA and Inglewood, and you kind of compare that to what we've got at the Emirates now, and you just think, oh, should have waited 10 more years. You know, it could have been what they could have built there. And you can absolutely understand why they would be starting to look at, you know, what can we do to the Emirates? Because money-wise, you just look at what's going on between Tottenham and Arsenal and the money that they're making from their stadium and what Arsenal missing out on, and the demand for tickets and how much money each game Arsenal missing out on of who could potentially be in that stadium. You can understand why they're looking at it and thinking, we're outgrowing this pretty quickly, and this needs to be, we need to have a little bit of a word on what we can possibly do with this stadium.
Exactly. Yeah. Just hope that it's not about kind of not increasing the capacity, but finding more ways of increasing the prices, which it's hard. Like, the Emirates is just a hard built stadium. One day we should do a whole episode on that.
One day. So just in terms of the tour, I was kind of thinking in my head about winners and losers from the tour. You know, it's going back to the old Football London days when you always had to do winners and losers type thing. And I was thinking, I was like, who's come away from this tour, you know, significantly boosted by their performances on the tour, and who's come away from it slightly with question marks over it. And we talked about Thomas Partey. I'd say probably some people will be looking at his performances and thinking, oh, it's a little bit of a concern. Is he up to speed yet? I think Zinchenko definitely, you know, he hasn't done himself much favours with his performances while he's been there. All those questions that everyone had over him very much still remain. You know, some people have had a very good tour, though. You know, you look at on the screen here, Ethan Nwaneri has done everything that he would have been hoping for on the tour and potentially more. You know, he's shown he's ready to play in the first team, you know, on a regular basis, not just, you know, I'm not saying to start him, but he's shown he's more than capable of playing on regular basis at first team level. Some of the other youngsters have impressed. Salahuddin, obviously impressed in his brief cameos. Whether that's enough for him to actually have a future at Arsenal, I don't know. I would still suggest probably not, but you know what I mean? He's certainly done himself no harm with the performances he's put in over there. Senior players, I was impressed with Kai, how sharp Kai's looked coming back with barely any game time. I was impressed with him. I thought there were some good signs from Gabriel Jesus as well.
Yeah, that's the one.
Sharp. Yeah, he just looked sharp to me. It'd be nice for him to maybe have got himself a couple more goals in those games, just to, again, with the questions people have about how much of a killer he is in front of goal. But is there anyone else who sort of stood out or disappointed for you while you were watching the games?
I mean, I would want to talk more about Jesus, because I think the question with him was around his physical state, and for me, that seems like it's okay. It's encouraging, and we said all of last season, just wait till you get Gabriel Jesus at something like 100% with a full pre-season behind him, with a full chance to work on his fitness, and we've got that now. And if nothing else, it means that sort of what happens over the next few months really gives us and Arsenal, of course, a sense of what Jesus can be now. Has the knee just become too much to manage? You'd hope not, because with him, even like kind of building some game time, some minutes, a bit of form and confidence in front of goal, you know, he could give Arsenal that number 9 that everyone's saying they need. I wouldn't say sort of winner or loser, and both of us inevitably when we were at Football.London came to hate that thingy. But Martinelli's intrigued me. Great against United, bit more off the pace against Liverpool, and I mean, again, another player coming back from injury, rebuilding some form and fitness. But you kind of got to wonder about that sort of. We both think he's brilliant. I know you're very high on Martinelli.
He was great really against Liverpool. I mean, against United when he came on, he was so. Admittedly, he was playing against like a kid, but
it makes me wonder how much he's like. I mean, we need to get the data from the season, don't we? But I do wonder if his role is maybe 12th man. I really like the idea of Martinelli coming off the bench. I know that's
what I'm talking about.
contentious.
Starting 11 for the game against Wolves. It's so hard to predict. Will it be Martinelli or will it be Trossard on that left-hand side?
Jesus.
Will Jesus be playing as a striker or will he not be playing as a striker? Where's Kai Havertz going to play? It's kind of I'm really on the fence about what he's going to do. I'm sure he must have an idea by now. What his starting 11 is going to be for Wolves. I think he's definitely working towards that. But I'm none the wiser at this stage. What it's going to be and who's going to be playing where.
Probably whatever he plays against Leon, I guess.
You'd imagine that's going to be the game where we'll get the biggest sign of what he's going to do. But yeah, when we're talking about Jesus, and I agree, I think he's looked really, really sharp, and that's good. It's exactly what you wanted to see from him in this tour, was just a fit and healthy looking Jesus who looked really, really hungry, and I thought he did. But I still think I'd probably have Kai Havertz playing as my number 9 for the game against Wolves, and so then it's where does Jesus? I think Jesus is on the bench unless he is playing out wide. One of his Saka's not deemed fit enough to start. You play him on the right. I don't know, but I'm still of the opinion, I think, that Kai Havertz needs to be playing as Arsenal's number 9 at the start of the season.
Yeah, I probably agree with you. But I'm very intrigued as to whether you can get Jesus on one of the flanks. Left flank,
over Martinelli, you saying?
I think it's Trossard, but it's good options to have, good headaches to have. But yeah, I think Jesus is on the bench on the opening day.
Interesting.
Which light a fire in him and Martinelli, and I know that's sort of how they're feeling, and they'll have been, Martinelli would have been feeling that from Brazil, Gabriel as well. It's not always the worst thing in the world for a player to start the season on the bench.
No, absolutely not. No, you're right. I mean, just talking about sort of winners and losers again, going back to Arteta. I mean, what do you think Arteta's sort of taken away from this? I think the biggest positive he's taken away, especially when you compare it to Manchester United, they've got no injuries on this tour.
Yes,
everyone's come back fit. I mean, you look at United, disaster already. Lost Lenny's gone for 3 months, wasn't it? Euro. Who else did they lose against Arsenal? Højlund, did his hamstring. Rashford limped off yesterday. So, and as much as we all want to win pre-season games, and we do, of course we do, it's really not that important. I mean, Man City, I think, have lost every single game of their tour over in the States, haven't they?
Celtic, by the way.
Celtic
sneaky Champions League contenders having beaten Chelsea as well.
Get your money on. Actually, knowing your betting record of me, you probably would put 50 quid on Celtic to win a Champions League. So yeah, I mean, again, you want to win these games, but grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Arsenal lost pretty convincingly to Manchester United this time last year in the US tour, and then look what happened after that. It's not that big a deal. Yes, you want to win, but it's not that big a deal. Getting everyone fit, getting minutes into everyone's legs is the most important thing. And I think Arteta flying back on the plane today will be sitting there, turning his head over his shoulder and looking at his squad and thinking, everyone's fit, everyone's played a decent amount of minutes. We've got Calafiori on board. This has been a pretty positive trip on the whole. I reckon that's probably how he's viewing it.
Yeah, everyone's settled. No drama as well. I mean, if we look back to last season, you just lost Jesus in the last few days leading up to the season. So Nketiah leads the line, which I don't think was anyone's vision. You're integrating lots of new players, which Arsenal won't have to do this season. At some stage, Calafiori will probably take the left-back berth, but that's it. In terms of the out-and-out 11, you don't have a sort of Gabriel-style crisis. And we've said all along, and Arsenal have said all along, this is about hitting the ground at full pelt. And there's nothing stopping Arsenal doing that right now this summer, which I don't think maybe was true a year ago, even though we weren't as sympathetic to that. And you don't need to be sympathetic, but Arsenal are good to go, fitness-wise, availability-wise, and that's all you need from pre-season.
Yeah. Obviously, Emil flew home early. We haven't nearly finished. We haven't spoken about Emil Smith Rowe yet. It's a disaster for me and you. We obviously saw him coming out from his medical the other day. It's still not been confirmed yet, but obviously that's a deal that's going to go through very, very soon. Eddie could potentially end up in Marseille, but Marseille is certainly going to need to up what they're offering at the moment for that to get done. Obviously, Eddie's quite set on going there, but they've got to come up with a decent deal, and what they've offered Arsenal so far, in my mind, I don't know if you're different, but 70 million, 20 million euros is just not acceptable for Eddie Nketiah, I don't think. But so is that a little bit of a worry that there is still, you're going into the season and there is still talk about players leaving? Would ideally that would have surely happened by now? I think when they started the summer, they would have wanted this done a little bit more. Or would they been expecting these to sort of drag on a little bit throughout the summer?
I mean, I feel like they're all in a good. Well, 2/3 of them are in a good position. So from what I've heard, like now that Nelson, there's sort of interest from Leicester, but I think a big distance in terms of getting that deal done with all three parties at the moment. You know, West Ham as well. That one's a challenge, but equally, sort of, you're set up in a position with Nketiah where you found a club working on kind of finalising a deal, and like I agree with you. I think more than 20 million euros would be good, but I don't think you have to be mad here. Smith Rowe, and then I think that frees you up to. That's a lot of money on the books. We've said before, the PSR factor there. You can turn that into a really exciting wide forward signing if that's what you want to do with it, or you can just give yourself some wiggle room. I think it's okay, and it's not like these guys are sort of guys that are going to be playing a pivotal role in those opening games. It's not like you'll be short on players. You kind of want to take these three and hopefully maybe turn them into one real star attacker or two, but probably one.
I think that's important what you said there. It's not like they're star first names on the team sheet. It's not going to be too disruptive. And we're not going back to the Cesc and Nasri start to the season from all those years ago when it was an absolute disaster what was going on, and Arsenal were really caught short at the start of the season. That's not going to be. It's not going to be happening with Emil and everyone else. 34 million, 27 plus 7 for Emil. It's a good deal, isn't it? I think it's a good deal for everyone. I think there's a very good chance that Fulham will look at that piece of business and think that's a good deal in a year's time. I think Arsenal will certainly look at it and think, given what he's done for the last 2 years, how much he's played, how many goals he's scored or not scored, it's a good deal for them. And I think for Emil as well, it's a really exciting move to a decent club where I think he can do really, really well. So I think for all three parties, I think they can all be pretty happy with that deal.
Chelsea will probably have a period where they've beaten this, but if you sort of take a snapshot of the academy from the days of sort of Smith Rowe, Willock, and I think Balogun was sort of in the setup around then as well. So you have sort of 23s, 21 team, Willock, Smith Rowe, Nelson, and Nketiah, Balogun. That is already earned Arsenal nearly 100 million, maybe more, to sort of 35-ish. I can't remember what Willock's fee was. Was that 25 million? So 95 million already. Then you're selling Nketiah and Nelson. I wonder if there's been a more financially productive group of academy footballers, certainly not in Arsenal terms, but ever in the Premier League. Which is also a reminder.
Add on top of that what Bukayo Saka's worth now. Obviously not selling him, but add put his value on top of that as well. And it's it was very productive for the club, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean this is a it's not quite the class of '92, but it's not far off either.
So we'll see what happens anyway with Eddie and Reece by the time we speak next. Actually, it's going to be a couple of weeks probably by the time we speak next. So I imagine quite a lot of stuff is going to have moved on by the time we sit down. Are you back for the Wolves game because you're going away as well?
Yeah, you are. Unlike you, I take a week off.
No,
I haven't got
2 weeks. Got to be 2 weeks in the summer. Yes, I'm back the day before, but I'm not in the press box for the Wolves game. I'm going to be in my seat, so I doubt I'll see you on that sunny Saturday. Well, it's got to be a sunny Saturday to start the new season.
Has gone in. My application is in for Wolves.
Is it? I'm going to be there. I'm going to be in the press box for the Brighton game. So that'll be the first one in the press box for that. But no, in my seat for Wolves, hopefully cheering on a glorious Arsenal victory. Who knows? Maybe Pedro Neto scores the winner against Wolves on that opening day of the season. That'd be nice, isn't it? Let's see what happens in the next 2 weeks or so. All right, mate. Look, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. Remember, as I'm sure you're aware, because we've just been speaking about it, I am going away. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to record anything in the next couple of weeks. Depends what sort of mood my wife's in, I think. But if I don't, that's why. But if I do manage to get some time to put out a few bits of content, then I will as well. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a good one, James. Enjoy your holiday, mate. I'll see you very, very soon.
Cheers. Happy holidays, mate.
Bye-bye.